in Austin, Texas. And they teach yoga in the Vinyasa tradition. Has anyone ever heard of Vinyasa? Vinyasa. So Vinyasa is very much aligned to the Krishnamacharya lineage. So we spoke about, I'm kind of going all over, but stay with me. Krishnamacharya, who was like the guy in the Himalayas who they brought down from the mountains for the Maharaji who was sick because he had Siddha powers. You see how it's all aligned? The Siddha Yoga tradition. Siddha Yoga, Siddha powers are like you can heal people. You have the knowledge. You have this like intuition where you can look at someone and say, I know what you need, and you can give it to them. That's why those gurus are so impactful and powerful. They literally can read your mind. And we were watching this program of one of the students of the Muktananda who spoke about being in meditation, and the guru in his mind said, marry this woman. And he said, I don't know this woman, I just met her for the first time. But it was a conversation they were having like telepathically. He was waiting in line to go pay his respects to Muktananda. And by the time he got there, he said, the woman came and he said, would you marry me? And she said, yes, I will marry you. And they got married because of this like telepath, like the guru knew that they were meant to be together. Weird stuff like that can only happen, I think, really when you're aligned to this level of love and spirit, that there's no obstacles. That's why I talk about Dorothy, like she had no fear. So she could see, you know, she could see with more than her eyes. She could see deeper into that. But anyway, Stan and Johanna are Vinyasa, and those come from Krishnamacharya, and Krishnamacharya really kind of taught his son Desikachar this tradition of Vinyasa. And we had, that's Kaustubh and all of them. There's the Krishnamacharya Healing Institute in Chennai, which still shares a lot of these traditions. So we're kind of linked to that lineage as well, the Vinyogis. Stan and Johanna are a beautiful couple. And Patthabi came to live with them for 3 months with his wife. And they built a little community in their living room. They took out all the furniture. And Patthabi came, and Larry used to say in those days Patthabi was wearing a diaper. You know, he had this, like he was Patthabi before Calvin Klein and the new teeth, which was a joke that Larry liked to tell, because when Westerners came to Patthabi, we just gave him all of our money. And so Patthabi started to kind of, you know, like to be a little bit of a rock star yoga teacher, which was fine too. But that's how Larry really started his practice of Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga in a living room in Austin, Texas, with Patthabi and his wife. Patthabi ate nothing that his wife didn't cook. He was very serious about, I mean, they were Brahmins, and this was to teach non-Brahmins, yogis, was really kind of quite revolutionary. And women too, which was another story, but to share the practice, you know, outside that context was also really forward thinking. So that's where when Patthabi left, they would all say, well, now who's going to teach? And that's when Larry started to think, well, I might be able to. And they thought he was very, you know, you can't teach because you can't do everything perfect. And that's really, I think, where Larry started to kind of, because of his experience in India, and I think he started to think, I don't think that that's what this is about. You know, this yoga thing, even though Ashtanga, what we're learning from Patthabi, is very dynamic and very strong and physical. And Larry went with it. I mean, there are pictures of Patthabi adjusting Larry and laying on his back. And, you know, there's a great story about the Baddha Konasana when Patthabi came. I don't know if I shared it with you. And Patthabi put one leg here and one leg here and stood on him. And Larry was like shaking. And Patthabi was saying him, mind weak, body strong. Mind weak. And Larry's like, mind strong, body broken. Body broken, you know. So he went with it for 7 years. He really did, with the classical Ashtanga vibe where like, okay, this is what the guru said to do. But Larry was also there and a part of the Ashtanga community before everyone started really bowing to Patthabi and kissing his feet, you know. So when those things started to happen, there was like this worship element that came in. I think Larry couldn't vibe with that because of who he was. Like it just, he said, here were all of my peers putting pictures of Patthabi in their houses, but they had issues with their parents. And nobody wanted to, acknowledge and give gratitude or put a picture of their mother or father in their house. And for Lair, that was like, there was a disconnect there, where now we're kissing this man's feet from India. We don't know anything about him. He taught us this sequence, which we're grateful for and we love it. But, no one really, Patthabi's English was very hard to understand, too. So in the circles, I think everyone did the best they could to understand the philosophy of yoga and what he was really talking about. But my sense is that the Ashtanga community in those days really hung on to the asana practice because that they could understand, the physical. I'm sure Patthabi gave a lot of really great information about off-the-mat stuff and yoga philosophy, but I don't think a lot of the group got it. So when that started to happen, Larry started to kind of leave the group, and they would go to Hawaii. They would bring Guruji from wherever they were. There's a great story when they brought him to Hawaii, and they got this beautiful house on the Big Island with this living room overlooking the ocean for practice. That's where they were going to do the practice. And when Patthabi got there, he said, "Not correct. Not correct." Guruji, we rented this beautiful house for all of us to practice yoga. So they followed Patthabi around, and he said that he opened every room in the house, like he opened the doors of the closets. Finally, he landed in the 2-car garage with no windows and said, "This is correct." And that's where he made them practice, in that space. In Hawaii, think about the heat. Think about how much, Karmasana might have made a little bit more sense in that heat. Karmasana. Some of those asanas. For a let's say he's 35 at this point, 35-year-old man who just started Ashtanga Vinyasa when he was 30, 31. But when Larry when he finally achieved, he finally completed primary series perfectly, Marichyasana D, all of those postures, when he finally got there, and he got to second series, and he got to Bakasana, he couldn't do it. When he got to Hanumanasana on tripod, he couldn't do it. And he was like, "What? I've been doing this for 7 years?" And he saw Bakasana and thought, well, that pose is, I'd like to do that one. More than Marichyasana C, maybe. We probably feel that same sentiment. Bakasana is kind of might get you a little excited. Marichyasana C, not so much. It's okay. It's okay. It has its benefits. But Bakasana is wow, strong. So I think that's when his mind started to trickle, well, wait a second here. I'd like to practice some of those poses. And how come I have to do it in these 6 series? How come I have to do it in this order? Those questions started to happen. And I think Larry really trusted his inner guidance on it, too. It wasn't egoic. It wasn't like he wanted to kind of disobey Patthabi or anything. It was just he really felt very guided in his intuition to recreate the system for not only his body, but for the students he also started to attract. Because he would see what happened to people in primary series. They would get very intense about it. Some of you have said to me, I'm very intense, right? We talked about that yesterday. I'm like, okay. Primary series tends to do that. Rocket, you can't do that because it's moving too quickly and it's so dynamic and you're having so much fun, even if you don't want to, you just are, because it's like, what? I just woke up. I didn't know I was going to do this today. But it was still Ashtanga. It still had that power of the practice because it included all those ingredients, those main ingredients. So, we really hold Larry in the light around his courage, around kind of going outside the group and listening to his own intuition around, I don't know about this Patthabi guy. I mean, when he showed up, he was really simple, and it's like, Patthabi is a Sanskrit scholar. So, and Patthabi would often say, I don't call myself guru, you call me guru. Which is also him, in my opinion, admitting that the students did that, we did that to him. The Westerners, we wanted a guru from India, and he was willing to play the part. And he did, beautifully, beautifully. So